There are very few worse feelings in this world than having an identity crisis. My very first identity crisis out of the many that I've had over the years, the one that I can first remember was just before I started making these YouTube videos. I started to feel like I was starting to grow more and more distant from my friends, and the reason being was that I felt like I just couldn't relate to them as much as I used to. I had been through everything with these guys, from the first time that I smoked green in 8th grade out of a soda can, to the first time we all came back from college freshman year, and we decided that it was a good idea to shotgun 3 4 Locos back to back to back. Going to the hospital to get an IV bag because I couldn't stop puking the following day was definitely not the most fun experience that I had, but it was one of the most memorable I had with those guys. All delinquency aside, though, the second half of my sophomore year, I couldn't help but feel like I wasn't myself anymore. I felt like I was transforming from the party guy to the guy that I kind of am today. This is when I started journaling consistently as well, and I actually have the little journal that I wrote in while I was experiencing this identity crisis, and I want to share something that I wrote. I wrote, "I have been really alone, not showing my true self lately to my friends, and I don't know if they'll ever accept me for who I'm becoming." When you feel yourself drifting away from the people who helped shape and define who you are today, you definitely feel like you don't know who you are anymore. And as I've stated before, I've had many other times where this identity crisis, or just not feeling like who I am is right. I don't know anything really. It wasn't just with my friends, and in all of these instances, I've identified a few patterns that have risen within all of these situations, and I want to shed some light on why you might be having a hard time figuring out who you really are and what you really want. The first pattern, and probably the most obvious one, is because you weigh other people's opinions too heavily, or you're just too heavily influenced by them. Now, we're all influenced by who we hang around to some extent, and that is why I've talked about in previous videos how important it is to have a very strong friend group that helps to support you and helps you grow. You really do need to be wary of who you surround yourself with, but no matter who you surround yourself with, these people are going to tell you who you are and what they think you should do. What's funny about this, and what I've realized, is that most of the time the people that are trying to tell you what's best for you are the people who don't even know what's best for themselves. But I will say, a lot of the time these people will have opinions that actually will be the best for you. But deep down, no one knows you better than yourself. Everyone has what I believe is some sort of intuitive wisdom that they can harness and utilize through the right practices. The problem is many of us never really get to the point of using this practice is because we are scared of what we might find. We're too afraid of being alone with our own thoughts, and so when we feel like we don't know who we are, we're just having a tough time, we usually go to friends for advice, but what they're gonna tell you is what's worked for them, not what's working or what's going to work for you. And this could lead you down a path of becoming a different person, being someone you don't wanna be deep down, and this might be where your stress is coming from. And so you really must go at this yourself. In order to reconnect with who you really are or who you are becoming, you have to spend time completely alone by yourself, doing nothing but either 1, watching yourself, or 2, writing down what comes to your mind. In the first case, it's kind of like a form of meditation where you can go for a walk while you're doing this, you can lay down while you're doing this, or you can actually like sit up and meditate while watching your thoughts and watching yourself and being completely alone with those thoughts. Whatever you choose, just allow yourself that time to really let your thoughts wander. You need to use this time for deep introspection, and if something confusing arises, such as a realization that you've been subconsciously holding back or quelling due to not allowing yourself to be alone, you need to start to explore that realization by asking yourself some questions. And I suggest doing this through a journal. While you can figure things out and sift through thoughts in your head, when it becomes physical and you put it physically on a piece of paper, I just find it to be a lot easier. I'll go over an example of how I've used this exercise here. I actually used this not too long ago, maybe a couple months ago or a month ago, about whether I work and function better when I'm mostly alone or not. Pretty funny example to use given the context of this video. I said, today I want to journal about the feeling that I work and function better alone. Is this actually true? I've said this to myself for years and demonstrated that that being alone usually leads me to a happier state, but I'm not sure if that's due to the fact that I'm just hanging around with the wrong people or if that's actually true. And what solidified this hunch that I work and function better alone is I actually met up with someone who's very productive recently and did a lot of work with them, and I didn't function any better with them. If anything, I felt like I was getting kind of drained working with another person who was even super inspiring. So I allowed myself that time to figure that out and ask the right questions, meditate, and journal on it, and that really helped me. But don't just write and ponder the things that make you feel bad or make you feel negative, but also write and ponder on days where you feel the absolute best, because those are just as important. Ask yourself, why did I feel so good today? What led to that? That's important. The second most common pattern that I've identified with having an identity crisis or not knowing who I am or what I should do is overconsumption of any sort of media, whether that's positive or negative. As most of my subscribers know, I usually go against the grain of your typical self-help content. I talk about not being disciplined or as productive all the time and just allowing yourself to be lazy sometimes, and I do this all for one singular reason. I'm trying to get you to understand that everybody's reality is subjective, and what works for some or most people might not work for you. And what works best for you is subject to change over time based on your identity at this given moment. I know that who I am has changed over time, and so I've had to reevaluate things I do in my daily life, my daily practices, and integrate new things, and that's what it's all about. This channel is and always will be me just sharing what's helped me live my most optimal life right now. I was actually watching Nathaniel Drew, who is another huge, I guess you could call him self-help YouTuber, the other day. I was watching how he tried Picasso's daily routine for a week, and something that he said stuck out like a sore thumb to me.
Productivity and so many things that are attached to this word is so overhyped, so unnecessary. I think all anyone really needs to live by are a few core principles: a mission, an outlet, and energy.
Picasso woke up at 11 a.m. every day, did not start working until 3 p.m., and then I think went to bed around 2 a.m. Now, why would he do this? It's because he gave himself the time to figure out who he really was and what was optimal for him. When you're constantly consuming media from the same sources, whether that's good or bad, even the self-help people, and you try to apply all the typical things and morning routines and whatever that are produced within these videos, and you do it over and over, and yet you still don't see the results that you want in your life and you don't feel right, it's because some of these things aren't made for you to do. You're trying so hard to be someone that you might not be. Even if this person is super productive and super successful, it might not work for you. And so I really do believe that everyone should even take breaks from consuming self-help advice and just take that time to explore what they've learned, to test it, to apply it, and then review it, see if it works or not, and then start consuming self-help content again. From the time you were born until about the age of 4, your parents were the people who had the biggest impact or the biggest anything on the development of your brain. Your parents told you what's best for you, and your friends and whatever media you've consumed all over the years has subconsciously formulated you into who you are today. Every piece of advice and information has shaped you into what you define as yourself. Everything outside of you, not actually you. So now is the time to start exploring and questioning and unlearning what you've been taught and start practicing what I've laid out here in this video. Or, you cannot, because, this is just what's worked for me. Big thank you to all my patrons who make these videos possible. If you guys don't know what Patreon is, this is a platform where I'm putting out exclusive content and giving personal advice. And this exclusive content cannot be found anywhere else. I actually just put up a video on there about my 6 sources of income and how I've built them over time. I got podcast episodes that aren't available anywhere else. I even have a guided meditation on there. So if you want to check that out, get exclusive content from me, then go to patreon.com/ColeHastings. The link will be in the description. Go check out the intro video, and yeah, thank you guys so much for supporting me on there. As always, your thoughts and opinions on the video are appreciated in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and thank you guys for watching till the end as always. I love you, and that is it. I am heading out. Goodbye.